Hey everyone, welcome back. In this Cypress tutorial, I'm going to talk about how to handle dynamic drop-downs within Cypress. Now previously, in the previous video, I have explained about the static drop-down and how to handle it. So please watch that through. And now we are going to discuss if, say for example, the drop-downs are not static and you are handling dynamic drop-downs. For example, in this particular case, this is particular travel website. And if we simply go ahead and start typing in something here, say for example, in the depart from, you will see a list of values is popped up here, right? And if you try to inspect any of these values, it is basically not the normal static drop down or the select tag, right? It's not like that. It's simple paragraph here or div element. Okay, so and this list, it is not static. It changes based on what you basically type in here. So how we are going to handle these sort of drop downs in Cypress? Now before I go ahead, let me quickly give you a brief. All right, so let me go back to VS Code, and what I'll do is let me copy this just registration test there, okay, and rename this to, let's say, dynamic drop down. Okay, so dynamic dropdown.cy.js. okay, and now here let me remove everything, the existing code that we had, and what we are going to handle. So basically here we are handling dynamic dropdown. Okay, so handling dynamic drop. Okay, so that's the description, that's the name of your test. And now, say for example, we have to first visit to the particular website. We have to first open the website. Okay, so I'll simply change the website to yatra.com, okay, and paste. Now one more important thing is that you have to put the headers. So for example, in this particular case, many times when this is the real website, right? This is the production website and not a test sort of website or dummy website. So we are working on the real website, and that will give you a real exposure of any sort of production application or any complex application that you will have in your project to gain confidence and work on it, right? So if you are able to handle this, if you are practicing on real scenarios that I'm explaining, then you will be able to handle any sort of project in your organization. Okay, so the important thing here is that if you simply go ahead and visit, if I say go ahead and run this, then it's not going to open. Okay, so it is going to throw an error, and I'll show you what error and how to resolve that. Okay, so let me quickly open the terminal and open the Cypress app. We'll go to view terminal, that opens the terminal, and let me just run the command npx cypress open. Will open the app, and this is the new file that we have added. So basically on the Cypress UI, we'll be able to see this particular test file displayed once the app opens. Okay, so the app is open. We'll go to end-to-end testing, which we have configured, and let me start in Chrome. So you'll see dynamic dropdown is here. Let me try to run it, and this is the new file that we have added, the test that we have added, and let me show you the error and how to resolve it before we can proceed with the dynamic drop-down handling on Yatra. Okay, so you'll see that we are getting this particular error, right? So Yatra.com, the error is a Cypress error, and it is giving, eSocket time out. Okay, so most probably this error will get fixed when we say, for example, we go back here, and in your script, when you are launching a particular website, which is a production sort of website that you are just trying to access and practice few things. I don't recommend doing a lot of stuff on these production website with the automation tool, because your access might get blocked, or you might not be able to access the website if the production server detect that there is a lot of automation traffic coming through, right? But we are doing a little test, so this should be fine. So make sure you add this header, so comma separate, add the header and accept encoding, okay, this bit in your visit command. Okay, so now if I go ahead and save it, you will see that the website will open successfully. Okay, you will see that the website is now launching, okay, and it will open yatra.com, and now we can go ahead and work on handling dynamic dropdown. Okay, so now coming back to the handling of the dynamic dropdown here. Okay, so now the website is open. This is the real website. Now say for example, I want to start typing in something from the depart from and select some value out of it. Okay, so let's first understand a basic understanding how we are going to handle it before we jump into the code. Okay, so the first thing is I want to go ahead and click on here. Okay, so first thing is my automation tool should just be able to identify this location and click here. Okay, then I'll be able to type in something. Okay, so for example, I'm typing in new, right, which will list all different options that have the new in there. Okay, so this is the dynamic list. Sometime it will be 10, 11, 5, depending on what are the matches based on the keyword that you are typing here. Okay, so then we have to basically get somehow all the items that are being displayed here in a list somehow. Okay, and then iterate over each item. Okay, so we then need to check. So manually, say for example, I have to select New York. Okay, New York JFK. Okay, so manually we know, we are human beings, so we know, okay, I have typed in new. So what I'll do is, okay, I'll check, I'll see where exactly New York JFK is, right? So I'll say, okay, JFK is here. So what exactly I'm doing? I'm going ahead and checking all this list visually. Okay, how will my automation tool know, or the script know? So the script will know based on the same concept. We will ask the script to get everything that is there. Okay, get everything that is there in the list. Then programmatically we'll say, okay, check each item in the list, each item that you have stored in the list against a particular code or the word. So for example, I want to check against JFK, New York JF. So I'll say, if go through these values one by one in the list and match with this particular word. If it matches, then click on it. Okay, this is the basic fundamental how you're going to handle dynamic drop down. Okay, so now how we are going to do this in the script, that's what we are going to discuss now. So for example, the first thing is we have to identify this particular web element, right? So we have already opened the website yatra.com. Now the next step is to find this web element, okay, and then click on it. All right, so we'll go ahead and say cy.get and we'll get the web element. So we'll simply say right click, inspect, and I'll use selector hub. Let me open selector hub plugin so we can quickly copy the locators from there. Okay, you'll see that CSS selector, BE, flight, origin city. All right, so if you simply look at the code as well, you will see that there is an ID. Okay, and that's what selector hub is picking up. So you'll see the ID is BE, flight, origin city, and because ID you can use with the hash, so that's what the selector is. Okay, so I've copied that, and now I'll say, okay, get this particular locator. Okay, and then do what? Then click on it. All right, so we first want to click. All right, then I also want to make sure that, usually after clicking, you will see that it gets clear, but I'll still make a one more command there. I'll chain one more command. Okay, so after clicking, I'll say also clear. Okay, so clear if there is something in the text box, I want to clear it as well. Okay, so I'm clicking here in the origin and then clearing everything, and then I'll start typing. All right, so then I will say, okay, type something. All right, so I'll say dot type, and then what we'll start typing in, we'll start typing in new. Okay, so it will start typing in new. All right, now sometimes, so usually when you type, Cypress will mimic the user type behavior. So usually how the user types, so this should be fine, but in case there is more delay that is required, we can say comma separated, and we can say within type, we can say put more delay. Okay, so delay, and then colon, the milliseconds delay that you want to have between the characters that are being typed. So for example, N will be typed, then there'll be a delay of 200 milliseconds, then E will be typed, then delay of 200 milliseconds, then W will be typed. By default, there is delay already if you don't use it, but if you specifically want to add the delay, you can add that delay. All right, so now this step will basically click on here, clear if there is anything, and then type in new. All right, so type in new here, NEW. So now as soon as the typing will happen, the list will appear here. So now basically we have to get the values or get all the elements that are being displayed here after typing in. So we have to get what exactly is the section that displays all of these list items and get all of it. Okay, so if I go ahead and say inspect, all right, one of the web element, all right, you will see that this is basically, these are all the list items. Okay, so in the code you will see that this is the viewport, okay, class viewport, which is highlighted now, and within the viewport you will see there is a div, another div, and all the list items that are being displayed here. And this is the dynamic list. This will change, right, based on the number of items that are matched here. Okay, so now somehow we have to get the list items that are being displayed here dynamically below the view. Okay, so if I have to write a locator, or if I simply say copy and copy the selector, okay, and say Control F, so it will basically give me this particular locator, but this is very long locator. Okay, so this, you will see that this is very inefficient locator. So what we'll do is we'll write our own locator. Okay, so we know that there is a class viewport. Okay, so let's write CSS select. Okay, so the class is viewport, so we can say okay dot viewport. All right, so we know that the CSS selector, the class is represented by dot, so we can say dot viewport, and you'll see that one element is matching, okay, with the viewport, and we want to get all the list items below that viewport. Okay, so we can simply say space, okay, and then whatever child elements, to get the all the child elements, you just say space and the child element name below that. Okay, so if I say list, okay, viewport and then li, you will see that it is displaying 10 matching list items there. Okay, now below the list, what is the unique value that we can go ahead and check against? Okay, so for example, if I say, if I'll type in new again here, okay, and then refresh this, you will see now there are 11 elements matching. Okay, so below this, what is the most unique thing? The unique thing that you can match against is the code, the city code, right? Because that is not going to be duplicate. Okay, New York can be duplicate. So you'll see the name is New York NYC and the New York John F. Kennedy JF. So the code is the thing that we are looking for. So where exactly is the code in this particular whole HTML? Okay, so if we go ahead and see the list item here, and below the label there is a div, and there is a span. I think this is not the one. So there is a paragraph below there is a New Delhi, and then there is a span. Okay, there is a span tag which contains this particular value, the code. Okay, so we can say the child items below the list. Okay, so below the list, what exactly we want to look for? The span. Okay, so rather than list, we can say okay, below the viewport, I'm looking for all the span. Let's see how many spans are there. There are 20 spans. So you'll see the spans contain the country and the code. Okay, so what we can do is we are just interested not in the list, just this item here. So we can say okay, span, and then we simply say last, okay, or just span and last child. Okay, let's say last child. So you'll see now last child will return basically every code highlighted here in this particular list. So this is our locator. Okay, if you'll see, if I say first child, okay, first child, you will see it is basically returning everything. Okay, so last child will, or nth, you can use it nth as well and specify the specific child, but last child is returning what we are looking for, and that should be sufficient. Okay, so I'll copy this locator and use it in our script. Now this locator strategy is explained in much more detail in the CSS selector tutorial, so I'll highly recommend watching that, because nth child, last child, all of this is explained, okay, in my CSS selector tutorial. So go ahead and watch that if you are confused about it. So I'll copy this, and now in the code we have to simply go ahead and say, first we have to get the locator. Okay, so we are now getting all the child elements. Okay, and then comes the main bit here. So now we have to basically iterate through all the list items that will be displayed after typing in this particular text here. Okay, so then how we can handle that? Now in Cypress there is a method each, okay, which is really important to understand. So there is a method each, and if you see the documentation here, each will help you to iterate over an array of DOM elements. And now what exactly these are? These are array of DOM elements that we are getting with this particular locator. So with the each method, I can simply iterate over the array of DOM element and do something. Okay, so you'll see that each, the explanation here, dot each accepts the element itself, right? The jQuery, which is element, is a wrapped jQuery element. So it accepts the element, the index and the list. All right, and then we can do something. So we can then say if element.text, right? Now Cypress supports the jQuery methods as well. There is no specific method to get the text of a particular element, so we can use the jQuery.text method to get the element text that is inside. Okay, so if we say .text, it will get me the text, and then we can match the text against the text that we are going to pass. Okay, so this is what we are going to use. So we'll say each. All right, so we'll simply go ahead and copy this, and then you'll see that .each is it accepts a callback function, right? So you'll see that it's a function and then arrow function, and then we define everything in there. So callback function as well, I have explained in more detail in one of the Postman tutorials that I have covered. So I'll put the link, or you can find out the JavaScript tutorials in the Postman series to learn about callback function. But as of now, I'll simply go ahead and use this. Okay, so here we can say, okay, .each method, and then which will accept, we'll say .each element. Okay, the next argument that it accepts is index, and then the third one is the list. All right, and then we'll define whatever we want to perform. All right, so here we'll simply say, all right, first thing is we'll say we'll log. Okay, so we'll say we'll log the text. All right, so we'll log the text that is displayed or there in the element. So we'll say element.txt. Okay, and this is the jQuery method. Okay, so this will get the text of the element that is being identified by this, and will log the text in the console. I'll show you that. Okay, and then we'll put the logic. So we'll say, okay, we'll put an if condition there, and we'll say if element.text. All right, so we'll say if element.text, I'll say includes, or say for example I can say equals, all right, JFK. Then what we want to do, we want to click on that particular element, right? So this is basically what each will do. Each will iterate through the list of items that are being identified by this locator, and then each of these with iteration we are putting a condition. If the text matches to what we are trying to click on, then do what? Then you simply click on that particular element. So we can simply say, okay, $EL, and then say dot. Okay, so we can do that. All right, so if we try to execute this now, we should be able to. Oh, there is some error here. Let me, what exactly the issue is. Okay, here I missed a bracket in there. All right, so this is now opening bracket. Okay, so opening bracket and then the close. All right, okay. So now we can see there is a little deprecation warning, which I'll show you. So if I just hover over, you'll see that this clicking on this jQuery element is deprecated. Okay, so I'll show you how to basically fix this. All right, it should work, but then it is deprecated, so we should be not using whatever is deprecated. Okay, so let's see that it works, and then we'll change it. Okay, so we'll go back here, and I'll go ahead and run. So let's see. So it has opened the website, clicked on it, typed in new, and then you'll see all of the log have been printed here, but it hasn't been able to click, right? So it hasn't been able to click on the jQuery element. Maybe because of the deprecation, it is not able to do it. Okay, so let's go ahead and quickly fix it. So how we are going to use it now? So if you simply hover over, right, you will see they also, this documentation is so good that they'll tell you what exactly you can go ahead and use. Okay, so you can see that bind an event handler to click or trigger that event on an element. So I saw it somewhere. So instead of, solution, instead of .click function, we use on click. Okay, instead of .click, use .trigger. All right, so we can simply say, all right, we just want to, so you can say, okay, the best thing to do is in the Cypress, you can say cy.wrap. Okay, rather than that. So when you see wrap, what exactly it will do is it will basically wraps the DOM element, right? So whatever element we are getting, it wraps the DOM element, and then you can chain the Cypress commands. Okay, so we'll say wrap the element. So we'll say .el. Okay, and then we can perform the Cypress click. All right, whatever click that we have. So this is the easiest. So now if I save and go back to the app, this should actually work, and you'll see JFK has been selected, right? So JFK has been selected successfully, and you'll see the logs there. Okay, so the log is coming from when I said cy.log, so it is logging on the Cypress console here in the left hand side. This is where you will get, if say for example you want to log something, we were logging the text that is being returned for these particular list items, right? So now this list or this locator is getting all of the dynamic elements. All right, and this dot text method is getting the text of those elements because we are using each. So this each is going through each of the element that is returned by this particular locator, which is based on what you type in here. Okay, so for example 10 values are being returned by this particular locator. Dot each method will iterate over each of these particular list item and then type in the text of those, and then it will go ahead and see that if we have used the if condition to match against a particular code, okay, and then click if the code matches to something. So for example, tomorrow I want to click on something else. Say I want to click on, instead of JFK, I want to click on New Delhi. Okay, so let's see what is the New Delhi code is DEL, right? So I can simply go ahead and change it to DEL, and it should then click on the DEL instead of JF. You'll see Delhi has been selected. Okay, so now same way you can work for going to, this is sort of an assignment. So same way, exactly same thing you can implement for clicking on the going to for this particular script. And this is how you are going to handle dynamic drop downs in Cypress. Couple of important things we have understood here. The issue that you might face if you are accessing the production website. Okay, and then different method, clicking, clearing, and then typing in, and then dot each is the one of the very important thing that you have to remember in Cypress. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much. See you in the next lecture.